Let's continue our AFC South free agency recap series with the Tennessee Titans. But before we get into that, Ryan and I, we just want to give a huge shout out to everyone that has joined our channel and helped us reach our goal, getting to 1,000 subscribers by the NFL draft. I cannot believe that we actually have done it, and especially with so much more time left. And so, Titans fans, if you have not already, hit that subscribe button. Also ring that bell to get notified when we create new content. Ryan, let's get into it. The Tennessee Titans have, I believe that we're starting to see a new chapter here in Tennessee. Yeah. I believe that they're starting to rebuild, and it's just the beginning of the signs, and we're going to get into that a little bit here. But one of the things I think I was kind of wanting to get into and start about is we're going to get into several key players that they have cut already, and there's one player who I personally think is on the chopping block, and that is Derrick Henry. Do you think maybe, and I don't think they will cut him because he's too valuable to the team. However, valuable as in like I think someone can go and trade for him. Do you think that is a possibility considering everything else that has happened so far within the Tennessee Titans?
No, I definitely think so, especially after going through and kind of looking at all of their additions and losses. I think this team is definitely entering a rebuild mode. And it might be a shorter term rebuild than some other rebuilds we've seen in the NFL recently, but this team is going to struggle in 2023 and possibly 2024. And I think if they're going to just go full rebuild mode, shelling off a guy like Derrick Henry, who's getting to the end of his elite playing career, get the value for him while you can. I think that's a smart move.
I think it's a possibility. I would not be surprised if they didn't do it, but at the same time would not be surprised if they moved it because I think they can get maybe a decent draft pick coming back as well. But let's go into some of the other key losses that they've had, and then let's talk a little bit on the positives and what we think that they can do in the draft, because a lot has come out about the Titans potentially in the draft, definitely shaking things up. But Ryan, let's start out with some of their key losses. Who were some of the key players that were cut by the Titans?
So, I mean, starting off at the top of the list, Bud Dupree, Taylor Lewan, Zach Cunningham, Ben Jones was cut, and then Randy Bullock, the kicker, was also cut. And then I think you go and look at the losses in actual free agency. So Nate Davis was signed away. Robert Woods, not a huge loss, but also signed away. DeMarcus Walker signed away. David Long signed away. Austin Hooper left. Josh Dobbs left. Dennis Daly and Lonnie Johnson, Dylan Cole, and LaRaven Clark all left. And then there's a lot of players that are still left unsigned. But to me, of all the names I just listed, you're looking at 4 of the 5 starting offensive linemen from week 1 last year, as well as 2 backups that left as well. And they did bring in Andre Dillard to play left tackle, but he's had a pretty large injury history. And to me, that's my biggest concern so far this year is the tackle position or the offensive line as a whole.
Yeah, just the offensive line as a whole. They have, the past couple of years, they drafted Dylan Reduns and then Nicholas Petit-Ferrer last year as well, who got a lot. They all got a lot of playing time last year because it seemed like everybody on the offensive line got hurt. But that's what really stuck out to me as well, was all the offensive line. Taylor Lewan is, when healthy, one of the better tackles in the league, but over the past couple of years, it just made sense to release him, unfortunately, just because he was just injured. It just seemed like he was just constantly injured. He just could not stay healthy. But when healthy, he was one of the best linemen on the field. However, though, what I'm looking at now, though, they look very thin. Even to the depth chart right now, they look thin on the offensive line. And so, as you mentioned, they did draft Andre Dillard as well. However, he is also a little bit older. He is, 20?
He's 28.
28. And so he's still kind of in his, for offensive tackle, still in his prime, but lesser years left. And so that was a good signing. I think where I was actually a little impressed by on their signings on the defensive side of the ball, where I think it helps kind of convince me, I think, on where I think they will do in the draft, especially early on in the draft. But signing Arden Key, signing Aziz Al-Shair, and also Sean Murphy-Bunting, key players that can come in and start and improve on their defense immediately on each level. And so Mike Vrabel is one of the best coaches in the league. He always seems to have such a great defensive team and talent on that team. Actually, defensive scheme and setup. His talent normally was lacking last year due to all the injuries. Yet they were still very competitive. So I think adding these players is going to help bolster this defense immediately, and I think it's a good start on the defensive side of the ball.
No, yeah, and then I also do like the Luke Gifford signing from the Cowboys, also another linebacker. And then they did add Daniel Brunskill, the right guard from the 49ers, as a little bit more of a depth piece. And I think it's a really good depth piece, but they're just lacking that top end roster talent, in my opinion, to really be competitive at the next level. And I think you look at where they are in the division. To me, they're closer to the Texans than they are the Colts and the Jaguars in terms of their actual roster. So they have a long way to go. There is a couple rumors surrounding them in the 11th pick in the draft on what they're going to do with that we can get to here in a second. But all in all, this offseason has been fairly concerning if I'm a Texans or a Titans fan.
Yeah, it's definitely just a turn of the tide, I would think. Yeah. And then kind of getting – and some of that, I think, to add on to that field of fire, that especially and some of the rumors that we have been hearing, especially very recently, is just that they have been shopping with the Cardinals, maybe trade up and go get a quarterback. And, I wouldn't put it past – I don't think Malik Willis is the guy that he was – I don't think they took him there because – they expect him to be the guy. Maybe if he panned out, that'd be great. You get a starting quarterback in the third round, but ideally that doesn't happen that often. And I think there was enough tape on there on the film last year to maybe question, is he the guy? Can he go and develop? And so if they were to do that, would not be surprised. But if they decide to stay put, to me, it just kind of reassures. I think if they're going to go with the best offensive lineman available, they could absolutely go receiver. Yes. Yeah. But if we're looking at the way that the team is built right now, and if they don't trade Derrick Henry, that offense has to go through the running game, has to go through Derrick Henry. And right now, they just can't do that. They're just struggling to do that.
Yeah. And Derrick Henry, I think, is 28, and he'll be 29 at the end of the season. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong on that. But I know he's getting close to 30. And I just, with the way that he plays, you can't run him into the ground and have him take 30 carries a game and do that. He won't make it to 30 at that point.
Yeah.
And so for me, I just think they have to rebuild this offense. I would not be surprised if they move on from Derrick Henry. And with that 11th pick, you did mention the rumors of them in talks with the Arizona Cardinals to move up to number 3. I think that's a mistake. You look at this team and they need more picks than less. And they need to be throwing multiple darts at the dartboard this offseason at key holes in this roster. So I think trading up, sacrificing the picks that you have to move up to draft a quarterback and put them in a situation like this, I think is doomed to fail.
Well, and we know what it will cost too.
Yeah.
And the 49ers did this
2 years ago.
2 years ago, yeah. And so it'd be 3 first-round picks. And that was for a team that was in a hey, we're in a win now mode. Then we're also going to see if we can also build for the future as well. Titans are not in that mode right now.
Yeah.
And so if they were in the same thing, and then it was just like they had a really off year because of the COVID year and everything, and just like how the 49ers did, then maybe you go for it. Be like, this is our opportunity now. Yeah. They do not have the team right now to go and win the Super Bowl. They couldn't even win the AFC South last year. Yeah. And there's one of the weakest divisions in the league, only next to the NFC South. So and that's what I like them staying put and taking the best offensive lineman that is available. I do believe that either Peter Skoronski, Paris Johnson Jr., or Broderick Jones should be there. I all think that they can come in and compete and potentially start day one.
Yeah, no, I agree. I like that pick a lot better because then you have Andre Dillard, you have a right tackle, and then you can get a guard later in the round, or not later in the round. Only if you're New England, you can get one later in the round, but you can get one later in the draft to address that interior. So I think they need a total offensive line rebuild as well as kind of, like you said, turning of the tide. But let's go ahead and wrap up the Tennessee Titans offseason recap there. If you have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe and leave a comment down below on what you want to see the Tennessee Titans do in the 2023 NFL Draft.